Hello folks. Today I thought it would be fun to talk about books that I have finished so far this year, as well as books that I've DNF'd. And by books I mean series, so trilogies, books more than a trilogy, and duologies, anything like that that I have either started and completed in 2022 / caught up with this year / DNF'd, or started last year and finished this year, or decided to DNF or caught up to date with. So the first one is a caught up to date with one, and that is the Tale of Magic trilogy by Chris Colfer. So it's not a trilogy, but at the minute it's just that 3 books, as he takes a bit of a hiatus from writing in this world. So it features book 1, A Tale of Magic, book 2, A Tale of Witchcraft, and book 3, A Tale of Sorcery. And these are prequel spin-off series to the Land of Stories books that I really am adoring. I absolutely adored the original series, so I was super excited to continue on with the spin-off. The original series I read as a buddy read with Kat from Kat's Reading Corner, and had a blast for pretty much all the books. And yeah, I've just been enjoying my time making my way through these, and I started and completed these, or caught up to these, in 2022. I think most of these are ones that I started and completed / caught up, DNF'd within this year. There might be like a handful near the end where they continued on from last year or previous years, where I first initially kind of got my teeth sunk into the series. So that is the first one, currently up to date. There's no more books at the minute released. Then I have, I'm not sure where I've put my editions, but I have completed The Smoke Thieves by Sally Green. These ones I also read as a buddy read, and that was with Deborah from Hills of Books. And they are 3 books with The Smoke Thieves, I don't remember the rest of the name of the books. Okay, so we have book 1, The Smoke Thieves, book 2, The Demon World, and finally book 3, The Burning Kingdoms. And for me, I felt like this series steadily got better, and the story, the plot, the characters improved as we went on, but it wasn't that stellar storytelling, character immersion that I felt when I read Half Bad, the Half Bad trilogy by this author. That was originally the reason why I wanted to give these books a go, because I remember feeling so in love with the world that she had cultivated and crafted together in the Half Bad trilogy, that I wanted more of her writing. So when she released these, I was like, oh my god, so exciting. And then I just didn't get around to reading them until this year, and although they were enjoyable, they were just kind of not of that, I guess, caliber that I had kind of held her to from the previous books. But they were decent reads, they were enjoyable. So yes, started and completed those this year. Then I have another book series that was also a buddy read, and that is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, which I read also with Deborah. We kind of did alternating between this series and the Smoke Thieves series, and it's kind of funny that they both have like smoke in the title. So of course we've got book 1, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, followed by the immediate sequel, Days of Blood and Starlight, and then lastly Dreams of Gods and Monsters. And there is that, I think it's a prequel, The Strange the Dreamer duology, and The Muse of Nightmares. I'm pretty sure that's set in this world as well, but I don't think you have to read them. I do want to read them eventually, but I'm not in like a mega rush right now. And this is kind of like how I felt with the Smoke Thieves books. They definitely got better as they went on, but I was so much more invested in this series than I was the Smoke Thieves. The final book for this one absolutely like blew my mind. I absolutely adored this one, and I was kind of gutted to have left this world after finishing the trilogy. The first time reading that trilogy as well, I know it was kind of one of those classic staple YA romance fantasies back in like the early 2008 2009 sort of period. I don't know how I missed it, I just didn't read it at that time, but I'm glad to have finally got through those and to have enjoyed them. So the next trilogy is another one that I had buddy read as well. I had a lot of buddy reads at the beginning of this year, and that one was with Gemma from Read a Book Gem. I don't have them anymore because I have given the books away. It's actually a series that I decided to DNF, unfortunately, and it is the Millennium Trilogy, or the Millennium series by Stieg Larsson. Later on it is taken over, or the characters in the world and the works are taken over by a different author after Stieg Larsson passed away. So someone else got the copyright and made more within that world. So I read the first book, and unfortunately it wasn't for me. I think it was quite dense on like the financial politics and the conversation. I didn't feel like we got into the meat of the thriller enough. Not even a thriller, like I was expecting more of like to be frightened in a way, like psychologically frightened, and I don't know if I just went in with expectations that didn't match the book that I was getting, so that might have been well and truly my fault. But it just, I didn't get it. I didn't really enjoy what I was reading. It was a chore, unfortunately, for me to get through, so I decided to not continue on with that trilogy, unfortunately. Following up with another trilogy, well, I think it's a trilogy, I'm not too sure. Currently 2 books out for this, and it's another one that I DNF'd as well, and that is the Last Binding series by Freya Marske. I've got the Illumicrate edition, very shiny cover. It's a beautiful edition, but the only scenes that I really enjoyed was like the romancy scenes, and they were very intense at times, but other than that I didn't really care too much about the story. There was only like snippets of windows where I was like, oh, that's really interesting, and then it would sort of steer away into something that my mind would end up clouding over. There is a sequel out now, and it's following the main protagonist's younger sister, and it's kind of like her storyline, so I don't know if it's just going to be a duology and kind of wrapping those narratives up. But I'm not really intrigued enough to find out, so unfortunately that was another series DNF, and this is a relatively new one. I think it came out this year as well, or maybe last year. Let's see, it says which year it came out. 2021. But yeah, I'm not interested in picking up anymore, unfortunately. Another DNF series. So it was kind of a goal to let go of books that I weren't enjoying. Oftentimes I'd force myself to carry on with a series. What is Elsa doing? Right, I just had to move that hazard. So oftentimes I'd force myself to push through a book that I really wasn't enjoying, and I've decided, okay, let's just try and stop that, and I've been getting more successful at that, and now I sort of also stop at a series because I feel like I have to finish everything, and that's just not the case when there are so many other books that I'm sure I'll enjoy, and I'm sure I'll enjoy spending time on. So yeah, there's lots of DNF series in this one. So the next one, as I say, is, where are we? The Woman of Troy. I don't know how many books are supposed to be in this, but currently there are 2 books. There's the Silence of the Girls and then the Women of Troy. Both times I just felt like we weren't actually getting the women's stories. It was still very male centered, which to me, from the marketing and the summaries and stuff, it's trying to give the women a voice, especially women that have kind of been almost rewritten or written out of history to an extent, and kind of bring them back into the picture, tell their stories, tell their histories, and really they are still amplifying the successes and the failures of the men in their lives, and it's just kind of learning the stories of the males, but the women are telling it. It didn't add a lot more, and I was hoping it would add more. So unfortunately I don't have any more interest in picking more books up from Pat Barker, because just from those 2 I feel like it's a similar vibe, and it's not really giving me that feminist point of view that I was craving. If you have any recommendations of other books that do it better, do let me know. I do have quite a backlog of, oh my god, she's staring at me and her little tent and her eyes are glowing. I do have quite a backlist of Greek mythology retelling. A lot of them are centered on the women, which I've yet to read, so I'm hoping to find some treasures within there. But as I say, if you've got any recommendations, do let me know. The next DNF'd series is The Towers of Babel by Josiah Bancroft, and this one I got 2 books in and I was like, I can't read the next 2, unfortunately. Gutting, because I was recommended them by one of my friends at work and he raved about them. I think he was saying it's one of his favourite series, and it just wasn't, I don't even know, like it just was over detailed, but the detail, so this is just the long and short of it, the detail that it was given was not the detail that was needed. It was very wordy and long-winded, but it didn't need to be, and it kind of lost, for me anyway, it lost the story and the direction quite a lot of times, because it felt like the sentence structure, for example, was going off of track, being too elaborate. I don't know if that made any sense, but yeah, I was just not taking a lot in throughout my time reading that. I tried physically reading the first book. The second book I listened to on audio, and both times I just didn't get on with them as much as I'd like to. So the doorbell rang and I can't quite remember what I was saying. Where was I? Let me recenter my mind. Okay, so this one I don't know if there's any plans to expand, make any more books, but currently I'm up to date, and that is The Sad Ghost Club by Lizzie Meddens, and this I read the 2 volumes are currently out for, and yeah, there's a really sweet story. It feels very relatable for a wide range of ages, I would say. I feel like everybody has felt sad at some point in their lives. I feel like there's something to relate for everyone in there. So yeah, that's a really good one if you're looking for a little graphic novel to get in your feelings about. That one is one to check out, I would say. And then we've got 2 more DNFs by the looks of things. One of them was one that I read through NetGalley, and it's an old one. I think it was one of the very first, if not the first, arc that I requested, so much so that I kind of forced myself to read it so that I could leave this review on NetGalley. It's not even on NetGalley anymore, and I read this one with Deborah as well. I don't know if she had it on NetGalley too, but it was like I pushed myself through and I was like, okay, no, I really want to leave my review. Not even on there. And this is the Metamorphosis Me Files by Samantha Marks. So I read the first book, and I think it's got 4 books in total, and I didn't enjoy it. It felt like it was aimed at YA, but it felt like it was written for middle grade, so it was very confusing who the target audience was, and just the story, it just wasn't very like neatly put together, I feel. So yeah, and also just the plot line and stuff just didn't really interest me, unfortunately. Okay, and so what I think is the last DNF before we get to the last 2 series is Only a Monster by Vanessa Lynn. I think it's supposed to be a trilogy, but I'm not too sure. This is one of the Fairy Loot editions, and I think it came out last year. But yes, I read it this year, and it came out this year, sorry. It was entertaining. I think I read this with Deborah as well, but it just wasn't, it didn't capture my interest for long enough. It felt like, sorry I'm not giving you guys synopsis, as I've just realised, but you can look through all my like reviews and wrap-ups from this year, and I go into more details and stuff, and I've done some reading vlogs of, I think this has got a reading vlog as well, of some of these books, but it didn't go into the type of monsters I was expecting, and it just, I don't know, some bits that have really fascinated me, it just seemed too convenient, and it was sort of explained around instead of actually explaining how that works, you know. And when it comes to like magic and magical items and magical powers, I like to know how and why they work. I'm a little bit like nerdy in that regard. I like to know the science behind it, and I just feel like this didn't give me enough depth to work on and feel like it was believable enough to be immersed in that world, if you know what I mean. Like, I know it's magic, it's not gonna be like super believable, but I need something to go off to make me really fall in love with the world and feel like I'm not reading, but it felt like I was reading, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, that's the last DNF of a series. And then the last caught up with a series is the Mina and the Undead books by Amy McCall. So I read Mina and the Undead last year when that came out, and oh, nearly dropped everything. This September, Mina and the Slayers came out. I've got this beautiful proof copy that I won in a giveaway, and oh my god, I love this series. It's the 90s, New Orleans, Halloween, slasher vibe, murders, mysteries, vampires. It is all my like trigger points that I love. I don't know how many books, I assume a trilogy, but I kind of hope there's more. But currently it's just the 2 books that are out at the minute. They are phenomenal, would highly recommend them. All caught up on these. And lastly, for the series that I have finished up completely, Zoraida Cordova's Brooklyn Brouhaha series. I don't have the first book because I read that a few years ago through NetGalley as well, but that is Labyrinth Lost, followed by Brouhaha Born, and then Wayward Witches. And we're following 3 Brouhaha sisters as they get into a lot of trouble. There's a lot of family angst and dynamics going on there. There's themselves coming into their own powers, there's sexuality, there's relationships, there's so much, and there's like magic at the heart of it. And it's overall, this was a really good trilogy. I think I would say in ranking order, absolutely loved the first book, really enjoyed the third book, which I literally just read this month as I'm filming this, and then the second book was okay. So I would rank first book, third book, second book. But yeah, so that is it for this very wordy, very chatty video. Those are all the book series I've either finished so far this year, or DNF'd, or have caught up on, which feels really good. It's kind of like a inventory for me, because my kind of always rolling over goal for the year, as they come in and out of new years, new seasons, is to crack down on the amount of series that I'm reading at once. So it's kind of nice to see where I'm at, like currently progression wise, with the ones I have on go, finishing them off, that sort of thing. Like I know I've still got loads that I feel like I might have loads that I'm still in the middle of, but it's nice to see a good chunk of them are going down, just to see those numbers diminish a little bit and have some nice completed books on my shelves. But anyway, let me know if you guys have read any of these books that I've spoken about today, what you thought about them, and I will catch you in another video soon. Bye!